All right, let's talk about the invisible forces that literally run our universe: energy, work, and power. Now, these aren't just some abstract ideas you'd find in a textbook. Nope. They are the fundamental rules that govern everything, from that giant star in our sky to the very muscles moving your body right now. So let's dive in. To get us started, here's a little riddle for you. What could a person going for a run possibly have in common with the sun? I mean, they seem totally unrelated, right? Well, the answer might just surprise you, and it all comes down to the incredible journey of energy. We're going to connect those dots in just a bit. So here's what we've got on tap. We're going to start with a big question. What even is energy? Then we'll see how it gets moved around through something called work. After that, we'll look at power, crunch some actual numbers, and finally, we'll track where all that energy really ends up going. Okay, first up, what is energy? A great way to think about it is like this. Energy is the ultimate currency of the universe. It's the stuff that has to be spent to make absolutely anything happen. If you want to get technical, the physics definition is the capacity to do work. It's the essential fuel for any change, any process at all. Without energy, nothing moves, nothing changes. Our universe as we know it would just stop. And here's the cool part. Energy isn't just one single thing. It comes in all these different flavors. You've got kinetic energy, which is the energy of motion. Then there's chemical energy, which is stored in the bonds between molecules. Think food or the stuff in a battery. And you even have nuclear energy, locked deep inside the atom itself. It is incredibly versatile stuff. Okay, so let's solve that riddle from the beginning about the runner and the sun. It all starts in the sun's core, where nuclear fusion smashes atoms together and turns mass into pure light energy. That light travels all the way to Earth, where a plant grabs it and through photosynthesis turns it into chemical energy. Then we eat the plant, and our bodies break down that chemical energy to fuel our muscles, creating the kinetic energy we use to run. So get this, the energy for that run literally came from the sun. Mind-blowing, right? And that whole journey perfectly illustrates one of the most important laws in all of physics, the conservation of energy. What it means is that all the energy in the entire universe has always been here. It just changes its costume, moving from one place to another, from one type to another, in this constant cosmic dance. So if energy is the currency, how do you spend it? Well, that brings us to our next big idea: work. Work is how we transfer energy from one thing to another to make stuff happen. Now, in physics, the word work has a very specific meaning. It happens when you apply a force to an object and you actually make it move some distance. If there's no movement, there's no work done, period. Think about a flowing river turning a water wheel. The force of the water pushes the blades, moving them over a distance. That's work right there. And of course, we can calculate it with this handy formula. Work equals force times the distance, which we call S. Now that last bit, the cosine of theta, might look a little scary, but it's really just a clever way to figure out how much of your force is actually pushing in the direction of the movement. For instance, if you're pulling a little red wagon with a rope at an upward angle, only the part of your pull that's pointing forward is doing the work. But for most simple cases where you're pushing straight ahead, you can just think of it as force times distance. Easy enough? Okay, let's add one more layer to this: power. See, it's not just about if you do the work, it's about how fast you do it. Power is all about the speed of that energy transfer. So the official definition is that power is the rate of doing work. If you have a lot of power, it means you're getting a whole lot of work done in a really short amount of time. Now, this is where it really clicks for a lot of people. Imagine you have to lift a heavy bucket of water out of a well. The amount of work you do is exactly the same whether you haul it up in 10 seconds or take a slow 10 minutes. Why? Because it's the same weight over the same distance. But yanking it up really fast, that requires a massive amount of power. Lifting it slowly requires much, much less. Same work, different power. Okay, enough with the theory. Let's put this stuff into practice. In this section, we're going to get our hands dirty and run through a couple of real-world examples to see how we actually calculate these things. All right, here's our first problem. We've got a 5-kilogram ball, and we lift it 2 meters straight up off the ground. The question is, how much gravitational potential energy did we just give it? Let's break it down. So, first things first, let's pull out the numbers we know. Our mass, m, is 5 kilos. G is the acceleration due to gravity, which is pretty much always 9.8 on Earth.
and the height, h, is 2 meters. The formula for the change in gravitational potential energy, or GPE, is super simple. It's just mass times gravity times height. So we just plug in our numbers, 5 times 9.8 times 2.
And we get 98 joules. Now, the joule is our standard unit for energy. To give you a little perspective, it takes about 1 joule of energy to lift a small apple 1 meter off the ground. So by lifting that 5-kilo ball, you've essentially stored 98 joules of energy in it, just waiting to be released if you drop it.
You know, this brings up a really crucial point. Not all forces are created equal. Gravity is what we call a conservative force. In simple terms, that means the path you take just doesn't matter. Whether you lift that ball straight up 2 meters, or you carry it up a super long winding ramp to the exact same height, the work you did against gravity is exactly the same, 98 joules. But then you have forces like friction. Friction is non-conservative, and for friction, the path is everything.
Let's see that in action. Imagine you're pushing a heavy box, and there's a frictional force of 50 newtons pushing back. If you push that box 1 meter to the right, friction has done 50 joules of work, turning that energy into heat. But now, what if you push it 1 meter to the right and then push it 2 meters back to the left? You've now traveled a total distance of 3 meters. The work done by friction is now a whopping 150 joules. See? With friction, the longer the path, the more energy gets drained away.
So, wait a minute. If energy is always conserved, but we're losing some to friction, where does it actually go? That question leads us perfectly into our final section, efficiency and the true journey of energy. You see, efficiency is basically a measure of how good a process is at turning the energy you put in into the energy you actually want. And here's the kicker, no process, none, is 100% efficient. Some energy always gets lost or transformed into a less useful form, which is almost always heat. We sometimes call this degraded energy.
An old-school incandescent light bulb is the perfect and kind of sad example of this. You feed it electrical energy hoping to get light, right? But look at this. Only about 10% of that energy actually becomes useful light. A staggering 90% is converted directly into heat. The energy isn't destroyed, of course, but it's definitely not doing the job you hired it for. To actually visualize this whole flow of useful and wasted energy, scientists have this really cool tool called a Sankey diagram. The rules are pretty simple. Energy always flows from left to right. The width of any arrow shows you how much energy there is, and any arrow that branches off the main path represents that degraded or lost energy. It's a fantastic way to see the entire energy story of a system all in one picture. And that brings us to a final thought. We've seen that energy is never created or destroyed. It just changes form. The chemical energy from the food you ate becomes the kinetic energy of your movement, the electrical energy of your thoughts, and the thermal energy that keeps you warm. So the real question is, knowing all this, what useful form will your energy take today? Thanks for joining me.
If you liked this video, then don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.